everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. Dima, Mora Brothers Music. So guys, I have learned that Kelis could be back on the dating market. Of course, this comes from our good friends over at Media Takeout, and they're kind of sometimey on their posts. But we all know that unfortunately her husband, Mora, had an untimely death. For what I can understand, they were madly in love, farming and doing things like that, had children. But we all know that Kelis formerly was married to rapper Nas, and that went in a very tumultuous direction with her filing for divorce. But now here is Kelis at age 43. And you know what? My mom used to always tell me that age brings about a change. Now, Nas is even richer than before than he was with her, doing much better. Kelis, however, is now on to possibly a third marriage if she can find it. And it wasn't her fault because the guy that she was with was 37 and died of stomach cancer. But the question I want to know from Kelis and from any other lady out there who's very, very successful, how do you go from a guy like Nas to someone of Mike Mora? I'm talking about in a socio-economic fashion. You go from one of the greatest rappers of all time to a guy who is a photographer. I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but if you ask a lot of ladies out there, you know, who will they marry? Typically, it's a guy they're looking for somebody that's very, very wealthy. But Mike Mora was at least 5 to 6 younger than her. That was an indication that Kelis's ability to attract very successful guys was already going away. I'm going to say it again. Already going away at that particular time. She chose to marry Mike Mora. No, undoubtedly, he probably was a great guy, a great man. I get it. But in comparison to the status of Nas, it was a big dip. So the question is this. While Kelis is posting all of these beautiful photos of her on Instagram, and my gosh, she looks great. She's taking some very raunchy photos there, raunchy videos. The question is Kelis ready to settle for less? Possibly again. And what I mean by that is a financial settling for less. I'm not talking about treatment here, and I understand that money isn't everything, but I'm going on what women said they want. A guy with money, a guy with influence, a guy blaza, 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 right? When Kelis was hot, because she first married a photographer like Nas, you probably would never go for. But here's what we're going to see. Ladies like Erykah Badu, Kim Kardashian, Lonnie Love, okay? We've seen it with Lala Anthony. What do you keep seeing, guys? Ladies going with younger men that make substantially less money. Hey, you've seen it with Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. You see what that went. My question for Kelis and any other lady out there who in her 40s wants a really successful guy, are you willing to settle for possibly a guy who makes a lot less money and has a lot less social status? And can you be okay with that? Now, some of you guys will say, well, you know, that's not necessary and everything like that. Kelis is an entertainer. Made a lot of money, very popular, very famous. The problem is in today's world, it's not that these ladies are not beautiful, because they are. Kelis is still as good looking as most 20-year-old ladies. I don't have an issue with that. Look, Mary J. Blige, you know, she has her days. That's my boo. But hey, certain days Mary J. Blige looks very great. But we're not dealing with age here. This is not the 90s where the world wasn't so big, wasn't so large. You know, now there's so much freedom of movement. I mean, just think about the world as a whole big European Union. And anybody been to the EU, you know there's freedom of movement. You come into the EU, you go strictly to Paris, you come there, you go to London, well, not London anymore, but you go to Berlin, you go over to Luxembourg, you go over to, you go over to Sweden, and it's free movement. Borderless. The world has become borderless. And with men having what they have, it's become unfair. And who pays the largest price? Women that are over 30, despite them looking good, despite them being pretty. And to be honest, despite them being very educated or having money, because it doesn't matter. And then having children could even make things deliberately worse for the guy, I mean. And so what am I talking about? It's important for young women to get it right. I said the same thing for Nia Long. And in her case, hey, she's not at fault what happened with Ime Udoka. But guess what? Ime Udoka has a much better chance of getting back on the market than she does. I'm going to do a video on that. That's the unfair advantage that men have. Ime Udoka completely threw his life away in many ways. Threw his coaching career away in many ways. And despite he's at fault, he has a better chance going out there on the market and getting another high quality mate than Nia Long does because of Nia Long's age and commitment to kids. Although looks are not important, she's still a good looking lady. And so my question is to a lot of ladies, are you willing to change some standards? So what you considered selling for less in your 20s, is it now selling for less in your 40s? Or are the standards still the same? Are we going to be more realistic as to what women can actually get on the market? Because let me just say this real quick. The dating market is just like any other economy in the world. The economy dictates what you're worth. I know people, men and women both feel that they are worth something a lot. They are undervalued. I get it. Most of us are undervalued at our workplace. We can do more than what we're worth. Got it. Don't disagree. But if you're really worth what you say you are, the economy, what you're worth, your value will determine it based on your own efforts. So there are changes that you have to do to dictate to the economy that says, pay me this amount of money. Pay me that amount of money. And for me to have this particular man or woman, if you're a man or a woman, you will only get what your worth is in the economy, in the dating economy. You can say all you want what you're worth. You got to be able to prove what you're talking about. Life is about what you can prove, not what you think or how you feel. It's about what you can prove. So when you say that you're this and that in the market, you got to prove it. And if nobody is a buyer for that, it means that the market has decided on what your real value is. So then you need to come back and look at what your value is and see how you need to raise it, which a lot of people, men and women, won't do. So my question to Kelis and other ladies out there, are you possibly looking to settle for less if you're looking at getting into a relationship in your older years when you have children in comparisons to the time and when you were 20? So the guy who was a great guy and was a blue collar owner and you didn't want to deal with the guy, would you be willing to deal with him now? And it doesn't mean that you won't be happy. That guy where he is right now could be somewhere greater. But now the whole, like, I'm going to get the Jay-Z kind of guy, the whole, I'm going to get the kind of Jeff Bezos kind of, those guys it's out of reach for most people now. Those guys are gone. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again. Another episode of Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell. I'm out.